Hey, I'm Ron Drotos from keyboardimprov.com, and for our sixth myth that we're busting wide open, let's look at this one. The myth says, quote, in jazz you have to go straight to rootless voicings. You know, these rootless voicings. So instead of C major 7 with C, E, G, B, you would leave the root out and you'd play, say, E, G, B, and D. So you start with the 3rd, 5th, 7th, and 9th, or sometimes you put in the 6th, make it a 13th chord, or whatever, but you're not playing the root. And the idea is you're playing more colorful voicings. The myth part is that you have to go straight to them, because what? All these myths are sort of based in some sort of truth, right? It's this unilateral, these unilateral principles that hang up so many people. They hold us back. And I get students all the time who were under the impression that they couldn't play tunes with just 7th chords. That if they played Autumn Leaves and they put basic 7th chords in the left hand, it wasn't real jazz, or they had to get beyond that as soon as possible. But hey, it sounds great. If you went into like a restaurant, a little jazz trio there or something, and they were playing something like this. Let's see, what would you think? Those are all 7th chords in the left hand. They actually sound great, right? So there's no real reason why we can't sound good with just 7th chords, even I just said it, right? The reason that sounded pretty good was because of the rhythmic flexibility. So the reason these hold so many people back is that when you're just starting out playing jazz, you're learning so much. The learning curve is very steep right at the beginning. So it doesn't have to be, but it usually is, because we're learning new tunes that we've never heard before a lot of times. We're learning a rhythmic language. If we're not used to swinging, playing pop music, how do you swing? Okay, that's a new thing. We're hearing these incredibly advanced solos we feel sometimes we need to do right away. Miles Davis and Coltrane and everything, and transcriptions. You have these books, and you feel you have to play that complex right away. You don't. The reason it holds us back is because while we're learning all these new things, the last thing we want to do is stop and have to figure out every chord. So, you practice rootless voicing, say on Autumn Leaves. Okay, hey, that sounds great. All right, D7, I can do this. G major 7, and you're looking at whatever. And then you get to play, and it's like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Wait, what was that voicing? Hold up. Okay. And then the next, it just slows us down so much. We don't want anything to slow us down, at the beginning especially. We want to get up and running pretty quickly. So I would say, stay with the 7th chords for longer than you think, and get so fluent with them. Learn them in root position, even if it means jumping around. It still sounds really good, because it's easy to do. It's easy to memorize. It's easy to remember. And get up and running. Play like 5, 10 tunes. I think I spent like 2 years basically playing 7th chords before I started playing a 9th. Luckily I didn't have everybody telling me I had to go there. I had fun. We were jamming with my friends. Played in jazz rock bands where we play like 2 chords. You just play A minor 7th forever, then B minor 7th forever. No rootless voicings. We had a great time. You can too. If you want to start learning those rootless voicings, you can at the same time. But don't feel that you have to use them all the time. Like you can play Autumn Leaves with all 7th chords, except for maybe one rootless voicing. Okay, you say to yourself, I know the A minor 7th really well. I know that rootless voicing. So every time I come to A minor 7th, if you're playing it in E minor, you'd play the rootless voicing. Other than that, you play 7th chords. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. And it certainly doesn't mean that you have to leave the 7th chords behind right away. You want to get up and running. You want to be able to play something in your left hand that you don't have to think about too much. And the 7th chords are perfect for that, because they're the first things you should learn anyway, right before you learn the 9ths, right? You learn 7ths first. Another big reason for learning 7th chords and staying on them for a while, again, maybe as you learn some of the rootless ones, is that they're the building blocks for developing our own style. And you see this historically. So, going back to the 30s, 40s, 50s, everybody starts with seventh chords, Bud Powell, all these people, when they were teenagers and learning the music, or maybe even younger in some cases, they were learning the seventh chords. And then they would each kind of come up with their own way of transforming those seventh chords. Okay, well, what if instead of playing a whole seventh, I just leave out the middle notes and I play the root in the seventh? Oh yeah, those are shell voicings, or I can invert the seventh chords. That's another way to get beyond the root position. And then, well, if I know this is an inversion of A minor, what if I just move the root up a step and I get the ninth? That's rootless. But then someone else might say, and I'll also move this note or also do that. So we want to, as we move towards more harmonically advanced concepts, I think we want to, or will benefit most by doing some experimenting on how to change these things. Or, someone shows you one little thing, and then you sort of go in your woodshed, they used to say, in woodshed, right? And work it out and just try different things. All too often now, we expect someone to just tell us every voicing we're going to use in the next 20 years. While that can really get us started sometimes, and or at least give us a taste of what's possible, it actually prevents us from forming our own style because everybody's learning the same voicings now. Whereas Horace Silver would voice things differently than Wynton Kelly, and they would voice different things than Bill Evans. I'll just tell you a quick story about rootless voicings too that held me back for a long time, even after I started playing professionally in New York City. So I would learn these rootless voicings, which sound great, right? And I'd play them when I was playing with a bass player because they were really designed to help us get out of the bass player's way. But I'd find that when I played solo, particularly if I was playing solo or accompanying a singer with solo piano, so I guess a duet, I would walk the bass line like a lot of singers like, and it sounded great. They're singing, I'm comping, the audience is really into it, it sounds great, it's grooving. And then it would come time for the piano solo, and I thought that I had to use these rootless voicings. So they'd stop singing, and then I would stop the walking bass, and I'd go, which sounds good when you're playing at home. I mean, it's a nice way to play. But I'd find that after the energy of the bass line and the singer and everything, it came down to the piano solo, and I would do that, and it was like this big energy vortex just opened up and sucked out all the fun. I'd see people at tables, like in a restaurant or something, start talking to each other again. They were listening to the vocalist and me together, but then when I started doing those, they'd lose their interest and start, can I have more pasta or whatever, And then the singer would sometimes, what's going on? And they'd start snapping, like, where's the beat, And I realized that while that can sound good, these rootless voicings were really designed to be used with a bass player, and they're not the full story. Shell voicings or hitting the bass note and coming up to the rootless might work better, but not by themselves, always with a solo piano. They can work, but the clincher was when I had listened to a lot of Bill Evans. Bill Evans is sort of credited with making these popular. John Mehegan wrote his book, and he got the idea from Bill Evans, even though Duke Ellington and Red Garland, Billy Taylor, many people were using them since the 40s. But Bill Evans, late 50s, was credited with this at least. But the irony is that I kind of stopped listening to Bill Evans after a while because he was becoming too much of an influence on me when I was a teenager and in my young 20s. I just wanted to get out of that and develop my own style because I listened to him so much. But then, around this time, I started, 15 years later, I started listening to Bill Evans again and looking at some transcriptions and particularly of his left-hand voicings. And I realized that when he played solo, he didn't play these. Bill Evans didn't sit down and just play these. He knew that we needed to hear the root. So he would play shell voicings, like the root, third, and the seventh, a lot, especially at medium tempos. He wouldn't play these rootless voicings, but everybody's playing them now because people think they have to. You don't have to play them. Certainly not in the beginning, even late beginning stages. You can play 50 tunes with just the seventh chords, and you'll be making such a big, solid foundation for your growth, your musical growth. And also a solid foundation with which, I'm hearing something outside, I think it's an airplane going ahead. I don't know if you can hear it. but you'll make such a solid foundation for your creative growth as well. The better you know the seventh chords on a wide variety of jazz tunes, the farther you'll go rhythmically, creatively, and then yes, when you start the rootless voicings, you won't forget where they came from. You know, don't forget where you came from, as they say, right? I get people who had found that they thought they needed to play rootless voicings and they forgot the basic seventh chords. You know, maybe that happened to you. Don't let that happen. Stay with the seventh chords. Okay, so good luck with this, with your jazz playing in general. It's a wonderful style to play in, but don't let this societal compulsion to go right to rootless voicings hold you back. Okay, have fun with your jazz playing, and I'll see you in the next myth-busting video.